to the BJ Show. Let's rock and roll. Rock and roll. Come on, everybody. Let's lose control. Brad and John, they're the ones to follow. Yeah, ready for the ride. It's the BJ Show.
It is the BJ Show. Today's date is the 3rd of November. We're into the 11th month of the year. John Combest, good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Brad Hildebrand.
That is John Combest. Every single day of his life puts together this incredible website, johncombest.com. Puts together dozens of things you should know about on his website, johncombest.com, C-O-M-B-E-S-T. We bring in this guy.
I'm Casey Kasem.
And he counts down John's top 3. We start with...
In third place.
I know you were all hype about December 1st because that's the day sports betting can start. But I have good news for you, Brad. You have an additional couple weeks to get your phone ready. I know that your phone causes you a lot of trouble, Brad. Starting in 2 weeks, you can download sports betting apps, create an account used to typing on your phone with your large font and your bright screen, and learn how to place bets on your favorite sports betting apps. You might be a FanDuel guy. You might end up being a Circa Sports or DraftKings guy. But on November 17th, Missourians can start downloading apps, learning how they work, and getting ready for the December 1st launch. Isn't this exciting, Brad? You don't like it. You're not going to be betting on sports come December 1st, Brad?
John, I'm going to pitch you a nice slow rainball, but I could give a poop less. How's that?
There you go. You know, I love it. And one of the best things that we've been able to teach people, Brad, through your idiocy, is that when people say, I could care less, they're actually showing their lack of intelligence. Because if you could care less, that means you care some amount. And so as we get close to December 1st, Brad, excuse me, there's been a little bit of disagreement about where and when you can place bets. And I should give credit to this story. I should have started off by giving credit to a gentleman named Jacob Tucker, which is uniquely spelled Tukker, from the Columbia Missourian. And I linked to this piece over the weekend. But Mr. Tucker points out that there's, as you might expect, as sports betting starts, there's some misinformation and confusion. But Mr. Tucker points out that Missourians living anywhere in the state can sign up for and bet with any of the 9 sports books. And there were some online rumors, I guess, and misinformation that you have to be in the vicinity of a physical sports book to place a bet. So if you wake up hungover on a Sunday morning and you say, I'm not close to Harrah's, you can still place your bet from the comfort of your bed. You don't have to be physically near a vicinity of an actual sports book. So you can expect that there's going to be a lot of misinformation as these programs kick off. But it's incumbent on the companies and probably state regulators and officials to help clarify some of that misinformation.
Okay, just out of curiosity, do you have a list of the 9?
I do, yeah. They're in front of me. I'll tick through them.
Okay.
There's Circa Sports, DraftKings, FanDuel, ESPN Bet, BetMGM, Bet365, Caesars Sportsbook, Fanatics, and Underdog. And as we've discussed, Tots discussed this many times on the show, Brad, Underdog is the one that you hear advertised frequently on Mark Reardon's show on 97.1. And we've discussed many times the fact that that is a fantasy sports site. And now in Missouri, it will be not just fantasy sports, but you can place actual sports bets on the app. So now it probably makes a little more sense, as we probably beat to death over the last 6 months, when I explain that Underdog is a fantasy sports thing, and they're building an audience here so that when sports betting goes live, they can convert those folks into actual sports betting.
Okay, but where are the Cardinals and the Chiefs and things like that? I thought they were in it too, no?
Yeah, they're tied to. So these are the folks that have the licenses. So these are the ones that have licenses to offer mobile betting. So I should have clarified too. This is betting on your phone. These are betting on apps. You can also go in person. Mr. Tucker lays out the physical locations where you can go to bet. They include Ameristar, in Kansas City and St. Charles, Harrah's. The whole list is here. I'm not going to tick through all of them. And then, as I understand it, Brad, when either at Ballpark Village or when the Cardinals season opens, there will be a location somewhere in that vicinity where you can actually walk into a sports book, if I understand it correctly.
John, I can't wait. I am so excited.
I know you don't make a lot of poor bets in your daily life as it is, and you need to make more poor financial choices starting December 1st, right?
See, I wake up, and every day I wake up, it's like a gamble of what's going to happen. So to me.
Speaking of, now that's 2 weeks away. We're 2 days away from the anniversary, of course, of the 2024 election, and people often associate that with Donald Trump being elected for the second, or some would say the third time. But we also have my favorite election night quote, which comes from the spokeswoman for the No on 2 campaign, the No on Gambling campaign. And that was Brooke Foster, who tweeted on election night as results came in, quote, "It is with all the professionalism that I can muster that I say F this backward state." So that's how we feel about Missouri voters, Brad. If you're, an angry woman of a certain age, you could be a man that was hyper emotional on election night. You could be like Brooke, a woman who, based on looks, I'm guessing is in her early 50s. You could be a perimenopausal or menopausal woman and tweet emotionally. Or you could just be a hyper emotional man and be mad about election results. But Brad, F this backward state.
You ready for number 2?
I sure am.
Up a notch to number 2.
I'm going to be a little bit self-referential today. And I'm not going to put this story at number 1 because I think there's a really big local story for number 1. But a statewide story for number 2. Over the weekend, right here on this station, Westplex Talk 104.5, Eapen Thampy joined the Farm Show at 10 a.m. in a pre-recorded interview. And for the first time ever, as far as I've heard, Eapen indicated that the path forward for changing Missouri's marijuana laws might not be through a ballot initiative in 2026. There's a chance there might be a legislative remedy. Now, it would take a heavy lift in the Missouri legislature to change the Constitution. The marijuana constitutional recreational adult use measure was passed in 2022. And because it's in the Constitution, you have to jump through specific legislative constitutional hurdles to change that. Eapen explained exactly what those steps are, why it is a heavy lift, but also indicated there might be a path forward. Now, I should note explicitly that Eapen did not indicate that he and his team, which are Missourians for a single market, he did not indicate that they won't be going forward in 2026. But Eapen acknowledged the expense of organizing a statewide signature gathering campaign. And I asked him directly, how much is it going to cost? And he said between $3 and $5 million. That's a lot of moolah, Brad. So, more importantly, and this is the one spoiler, the one piece of information that I'll give away, is that Eapen said that he expects his team to make a decision on a 2026 ballot initiative sometime this month. So it's fair to say by the time we get to Thanksgiving, maybe a little sooner, we're going to hear from Eapen and his team on whether we can plan and expect to vote on marijuana in 2026.
John, have you ever heard how hot hell is?
I haven't.
You've never heard that hot hell
No,
is
it's
really
hot as hell. I have heard of St. Louis in the summer, but have you heard about hell freezing over, Brad?
Have you ever heard about a snowball in hell?
A snowball, and you don't think that they'll be able to raise that money?
I think that they don't have a snowball's chance in hell. I'm telling you, I think that they might as well just give up now. They're not going to get this done.
Okay, and did a marijuana initiative gather a lot of signatures in 2022?
Yeah, but the problem is all the pot smokers are going to go, we're not going to let that happen, and they'll all show up down. There'll be 2 million people show up at the Capitol building, and it's never ever happened before, and they'll all be out there in the parking lot. Yeah, man, leave it just the way it is. We like it. That's what's going to happen, John.
Oh, Brad, now, if there's one thing we don't do on this show, we don't stereotype, Brad.
We don't?
Yeah, we don't stereotype cannabis smokers or the subject in story number one. Is Casey around?
The number one.
In early September, we discussed an issue close to home in St. Peter's. And in fact, a Chinese restaurant was raided. The Golden Apple Buffet. Not only was the buffet raided, but a home in which allegedly, according to first-hand observers, up to 20 people were living. They weren't just any employees. They were illegal aliens. Well, St. Louis Public Radio talked to someone with first-hand knowledge of the situation. They talked to immigration attorney Jim Hacking. And I should point out that this was part of St. Louis on the Air, which was aired last week, I believe, by Danny Wicentowski. Danny's byline is on this story. Now, to establish bona fides here, Jim Hacking is a renowned, I don't use that word very often, a renowned immigration attorney. I should say my bias here. I knew Jim from back in the day, 20 years ago, I'd say, when I first started my website. Jim had a website where he wrote about policy. I got to know Jim during that period of time. I don't talk to Jim anymore for no reason other than we fell out of contact with each other. But I have a lot of respect for Jim. And so my bias in this story is that I know that Jim knows what he's talking about. Jim Hacking is the attorney for 10 of the people that were, quote unquote, targeted in this raid. Let's just say arrested in this raid. Excuse me. And the unique thing that Jim says, I think that's eye-opening here, is that Jim says that a lot of people who are critics of immigration say, quote, why don't these immigrants just do things the right way? And here's what Jim says. Well, you know what my clients did? They went to the State Department. They paid a fee. They got a visa to the United States. When they got here, they applied for asylum. And after that, they applied for work authorization. And what did it get them? It got them dragged out of a shower at gunpoint, dragged into jail where they were sent to rot. Now, some of Jim's clients have already been deported. And Jim notes that he doesn't represent, he doesn't represent all the people who were arrested in this raid and who were sitting in detention as it speaks. But Jim says that contrary to what many of us, I'll just take the responsibility here, contrary to what I assumed, they didn't just come here because they were trafficked. They actually saw that a job was posted in the United States, and then they came to St. Louis, they worked, they tried to get work authorization, and while they were here, the home got raided. So I have a link up to it today on my website, Brad.
John, I'm beginning to the point where I don't quite understand what's going on with this because of the fact that I thought that they were going after all the criminals and things like that. And it doesn't seem like that anymore. And I do get the fact that the people who come here legitimately and go through the naturalization process and stuff like that. I know a couple of people like that, believe it or not, that they feel that these are line jumpers, that these people come across the border in Mexico, that essentially they're jumping the line. But by the same token, if these people had, like all the documents you say the attorney said they had, why did they grab them? I don't understand that.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that you grab people. I think Jim Hacking's point here is that his people came here with a visa, it expired, and they were in the queue. This is the way that I interpret it. That they were in the queue to at least get, I don't know, either an extension or a work authorization or an exception or something. And they did everything they could do. And before they were able to get the next round of paperwork, ICE came and took them and says, no, it doesn't. We don't care that you applied X amount of months ago. Jim also notes that some of his clients have been here for years and some have only been here for months. And also, Jim notes the misperception that 20 people were living in a house. He says that the people, as he understands it, among the group of 20 people, they were spread across 4 different houses. So you would have had, I don't know, by my math, 5 people in a house, in each house. So Jim acknowledges that there's certainly probably some sort of violation there if it's a tiny abode or something like that. But anyway, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that firsthand accounts from neighbors would be inaccurate. You know, it's whatever guy is standing outside when a news reporter shoves the camera in their face.
We'll take a break. We'll be back.